You know, tariffs are one of those topics that seem a bit old-fashioned, like they belong in dusty history books. But here we are, they're back in the spotlight. It's fascinating how tariffs are being used today as a tool in the modern economy. There's this intriguing idea that they might actually help solve some current economic problems. And when you start digging, the historical and international context makes it even more captivating.
Exactly. And that's the thing, tariffs aren't inherently good or bad. It's not black and white. There's a lot of complexity and nuance involved in how they're applied. Sometimes they can help a local industry grow, but at other times they can hurt consumers by raising prices. This topic is definitely worth a deeper dive to truly understand the intricacies. So, let's explore how tariffs actually work and what effects they might have on our economy.
So let's dive into the 19th century, where tariffs started to gain ground in the US. Back then, tariffs were more than just taxes. They represented a step towards economic independence. The idea was to protect budding industries and support local growth. Alexander Hamilton played a pivotal role in this. He foresaw how crucial it was for the nation to become self-reliant, rather than depending heavily on European goods.
Absolutely, and when we look at those times, the contrast with today becomes quite clear. In the 19th century, tariffs were seen as a way to build industries and fuel growth. However, today's challenges are different. We live in a global economy where many countries are intertwined. This has led to the return of the concept of economic nationalism, where tariffs try to protect domestic industries from international competition. They were successful back then, but now, they face unique modern challenges.
Hamilton's vision was indeed pioneering for his time. He understood that for the United States to thrive, it had to be more than just politically independent. Economically, it needed a robust manufacturing base. Tariffs were a part of his strategy to help domestic industries gain footing and grow, even when competing against cheaper European imports. His approach was to impose tariffs that would make imports pricier, encouraging American businesses to fill the gap.
That's right. These tariffs essentially acted as a shield for American industries, allowing them to develop without the pressure of cheaper foreign goods. However, in our current globalized economy, things are more complex. While the goal of protecting local industries remains, the interconnectedness of supply chains presents big challenges. Economic nationalism has to balance this need for protection with the realities of modern trade networks, understanding how each step impacts the economy on a broader scale.
It's interesting to see how countries like India, Brazil, and China have grown using tariffs as part of their economic strategies. These countries view tariffs as a tool to protect their local markets and boost industrial growth. Looking at the US, recent policies are also heading in a similar direction. The aim seems to be recreating a sort of economic nationalism, harking back to when tariffs supposedly helped industries thrive and even kept income taxes low.
Exactly, but there's a twist in how things play out today. American consumers have gotten used to low-cost imports thanks to global supply chains. This reliance actually complicates the return of strong tariff policies. If tariffs drive up prices on everyday goods, it's like placing an extra tax on consumers. On the other hand, there are strategic advantages in reviving certain domestic industries and jobs, even if it comes at the cost of reducing consumer purchasing power.
In recent discussions, I found it fascinating how the U.S. Federal Reserve's research provided insights into the 2018 tariffs on washing machines. They examined the effect of these tariffs, finding that there were real price increases that ended up trickling down to consumers. It seems not only did this impact the typical consumer purchasing these appliances, but those who didn't even buy imported goods.
Yeah, the unintended consequences really stood out to me. Through the 2018 research, it was apparent that not only did washing machines experience price hikes, but so did dryers, even though they weren't directly affected by the tariffs. It's astonishing how short-term economic shocks don't just stop at one product but ripple outwards, affecting associated consumer products. The burden of these indirect taxes can become a real issue for everyday people.
Exactly. It's almost like this sneaky tax, hidden under the guise of tariffs, but ultimately paid by consumers. People often overlook these trickle-down effects when evaluating policy changes. Businesses initially bear the brunt of the tariffs, but to sustain profits and operations, they are forced to pass these costs on to the consumer. It's crucial that this kind of economic impact on consumers is part of any discussion around tariffs.
True. When we see these indirect impacts in action, it emphasizes how vital it is to consider all sides of such economic tools. It's not just about revenue for the government or protection for industries. It deeply affects the average person's wallet. These broader economic and social consequences give us a clearer picture of how strategic taxes like tariffs play out in real-world scenarios. The ultimate question is whether the long-term benefits really outweigh these immediate costs.
So let's dive into how tariffs really impact jobs and industries. Take the washing machine tariffs, for example. They did create some jobs in the US, but at what cost? The expense was significant, with each position created coming at a steep price. It's not the most efficient way to bolster employment, especially when you think about the broader economy. For every job added, there was a significant increase in the cost to consumers, which brings into question if this strategy truly benefits the country as a whole.
I agree. And the situation with the steel tariffs in 2018 further illustrates this point. While they aimed to shield the domestic steel industry, they inadvertently led to layoffs in other sectors like automotive, construction, and machinery. These industries rely on steel as an input, and the increased costs made them less competitive. It's a delicate balance. While tariffs might protect certain industries, they can simultaneously inflict damage elsewhere. It's crucial to weigh these potential disruptions against the intended protections.
Exactly. And when industries like automotive and construction start laying off workers due to inflated costs of materials, it sets off a chain reaction. The intended protectionism can lead to economic harm if not implemented with care. Each decision to impose tariffs needs to be accompanied by strategies to mitigate any negative impact on associated industries. Employment creation via tariffs should ideally be done in a way that minimizes inefficiencies and maximizes net economic benefits.
Right. And it's clear that a one-size-fits-all approach won't work. Policymakers need to understand that tariffs, while a powerful tool, are double-edged. They must craft policies that protect certain sectors without causing widespread harm to others. This means having a nuanced approach that considers the bigger economic picture, ensuring balanced protection while fostering growth. Ultimately, it's about finding that middle ground where protection doesn't equate to detriment.
Thinking about the 1964 tariff on light trucks really offers us a fascinating case study. This one particular tariff helped the U.S. automotive industry stay competitive, especially when offshoring was a big threat. Trucks and SUVs became the saviors, providing high profit margins for American companies like Ford and General Motors. The tariff encouraged not just survival, but growth. It allowed these companies to invest locally and build a strong foundation that continues to support the industry.
Absolutely. It highlights how tariffs can be more than just a temporary fix. By creating a stable environment, they can foster long-term industrial growth. We saw foreign companies like Toyota and Honda establish operations in the U.S., influenced by these protective measures. But here's the kicker. Even with such examples, we have to look at the domestic competition. Tariffs should encourage local industries to strive for better quality and innovation rather than create market complacency. Otherwise, despite the initial protection, consumers might suffer from higher costs and less choice.
Right. And these positive scenarios often come with their own sets of complications. Take Mercedes-Benz, for example. They managed to find a clever workaround by assembling their vans in Germany, then sending them disassembled to the US to dodge the tariff. It's like they took a page out of the DIY assembly manual. This kind of strategy highlights an inefficiency created by tariff barriers, where firms might find ways to skirt around the barriers, rather than fully commit to relocating domestically.
That's a brilliant point. These workarounds show how the initial intention of tariffs can sometimes be sidelined by creative bypass methods. Some companies reroute through other countries or repackage products, which further dilutes the intended economic benefits. It shows us that tariffs are complex tools that can have both intended and unintended results. Policymakers need to consider the whole range of consequences before implementing them to ensure they are effective in the long run.
Let's talk about how global tensions are shaping tariff policies today. It's quite interesting how countries are using tariffs, not just for economic reasons, but also for strategic purposes. With rising global tensions, tariffs can become a tool for national security. It's not just about protecting industries anymore, it's also about ensuring the country is self sufficient in crucial sectors. This includes areas like semiconductors, energy, and even food production.
Absolutely, and when we consider the threat of embargoes during conflicts, tariffs play a role in economic readiness. If global trade was suddenly disrupted, having our own industry for important sectors could be a lifeline. This is where the conversation shifts from purely economic reasoning to a geopolitical necessity. It's fascinating to see how governments weigh these factors when deciding on tariff policies. The balance between protectionism and free trade is constantly evolving with these new dimensions.
Thinking about the future, we can see a shift towards protectionism, largely driven by the need to protect against geopolitical uncertainties. For many countries, the stakes are high, and relying on international trade for everything seems risky. The idea is not to isolate, but to create a resilient economy that can withstand global disruptions. Tariffs, in this context, are both a shield and a bargaining tool to strengthen national positions in the global arena.
That's a great point. It's about finding a middle ground where tariffs can help secure strategic industries while still engaging in global trade. As countries reassess their trade policies, it becomes clear that they need to be flexible and adaptable. Understanding the geopolitical landscape gives us insight into why some countries might choose protectionism over free trade. Despite the economic costs, the peace of mind in having domestic control over vital sectors might justify the trade-offs.
We've explored how tariffs can impact economies, both in positive and negative ways. The story of tariffs is complex, with historical examples showing us just how pivotal their role can be. Tariffs can shape economic policies, influence industries, and even touch national security concerns. As we conclude, let's remember that every policy decision, like tariffs, demands careful scrutiny and a balanced understanding of its diverse implications.
Absolutely. The conversation on tariffs is far from over. It's crucial to keep asking questions and discussing how such policies affect us all. If you found this discussion interesting, we'd love for you to join us as we explore more on trade dynamics. Like this episode, drop a comment to share your thoughts and don't forget to subscribe for more engaging content. Thanks for tuning in.